Okay, great. Thank you so much for doing this, Lisa. This podcast is for two kinds of people. Those that the ones that are starting their careers, trying to figure out what path to take in the world. You and I were there at some point, right?
Mhm.
And the other kind of people that will benefit from this are mid-level executives, executives who may be thinking about switching careers, doing something different. So learning from you and for me selfishly, just to have a structured time to learn more from you, people that I
Mhm.
admire, it's a good mechanism to get it all done in 30 minutes. So remember, don't overthink your answers. Just go with your first instinct. We're gonna have a great chat, okay?
Yes, I love that you're doing this. This is so wonderful.
Yes. So let's just start with like the very beginning. Where were you born and raised?
Well, as you know, I'm like a walking PR campaign for the great state of Minnesota. So I was born in Minneapolis, and born and raised in South Minneapolis, Minnesota, just like one of the greatest places on earth.
Okay. And tell me a little bit about your childhood, Lisa. What kind of kid were you?
Oh my goodness. My childhood was a bit tumultuous. My folks got divorced when I was pretty little. And, it was a complicated time for my parents. My mom was a single working mom. My dad was kind of going through, his own stuff, making relationships complicated and my relationships with my parents complicated. And also, they just didn't have a lot of time for me. So I am an only child, and, spent a lot of time alone, really. But I would say, to answer the question about, like, what kind of kid I was, I have always been, from the time I can remember, just deeply curious about people and why people are the way that they are. And so, for example, like, we would go out to eat when I was little, and I would be, like, up at the host stand, sitting with the host and, like, greeting people. My parents will tell you that I was just, like, very hard to contain and keep in my seat. So I was, like, very precocious, very curious, very observant, of my surroundings and trying to make sense of things.
And tell me a little bit about who or what shaped how you saw work or creativity.
Mm. Um, like I said, I spent a lot of time alone. And so, and there were a variety of circumstances that were responsible for that, but I did have access to a lot of film and television. And so I really took to that and I leaned on cinema, and just like, and television to really kind of shape my understanding of the world in a lot of ways. I was watching content that was, like, far inappropriate for a child my age, like,
Uh-huh.
way before I should have been watching things, but it taught me a lot about human dynamics and a lot. I mean, obviously, like, storytelling of that nature can be very fantastical and fantasy, but also it's very real. It's about the human experience and how that comes to life in that type of art form, and so that was, like, a big, big influence on me for sure. And then just to, like, stay the course with doing things that were, like, inappropriate for a kid of my age to be doing, I was, like, wandering the streets of downtown Minneapolis, by myself at a very young age and, just observing human behavior. And so I had some pretty unique experiences as a young kid, just interacting with a lot of different adults from a lot of different places, and that really set the stage for how I move through the world and how I think about things.
Okay. Let me do a little camera check. You're seeing my video, right?
Yeah, I see your video. Do you
I
see mine?
I, I just disappeared. So sticking with the job theme, what was your first paid job and what
Mm,
did it teach you about value?
mm. Okay, so my first job, I was 14. I was a receptionist at Regis Hairstylist, which is like a very large national,
Yeah.
like, hair and nail salon. Um, and yeah, I started working. My stepmom had a connection there, and so, like, I started working, and so again, I was in, a very, forward facing role. I was interacting with people, taking appointments, checking people in, getting them all set up. And so, my relationship to people and how I relate and bring joy and connectivity and an elevated spirit to things. That was awesome. And then as far as like value goes, what it taught me about value, my stepmom is like a massive, massive, awesome force in my life. But she taught me to save money. She taught me,
Uh-huh.
like I had to save, I think like 20% of my paycheck from the time I started working. And so she really, planted the seeds of what it means to work and what it means to have kind of respect and regard for your work.
Yeah. You see how this is amazing? I didn't know that about you. I know a lot about you. We met also through a recruiting process where it's so fulfilling to get to know the person and then through our life, but I didn't know this about you. That's cool.
Yeah.
Let's do some rapid fire questions. Best purchase under $100.
Best purchase under $100?
Under 100.
Oh my God. That is like these questions stress me out. Like, ask me like the deepest, darkest questions about my life and I'll be able to answer them. And then if you're like asking me something like this, it's like so hard. Best purchase on does it have to be can it be anything?
It could be anything. I know you like food, so
I
maybe
mean,
you
I'm like
go,
obsessed with Unreal Candy Quinoa Crisp, which is like under $10, but also very expensive for candy. But or like a bag of Skinny Pop, like a family sized bag of Skinny
yeah.
Pop. Like literally the best gifts you could give me are like some chocolate, that chocolate or popcorn. Um, Oh my god, I wanna have, like, a more amazing answer than this.
No, that's good.
Okay.
What about this? This will help you more. What about your most meaningful investment? It doesn't have to be money, right? What do you think is your most meaningful investment?
Um, I got sober, when I was 17 years old, and, because of some of the things I signaled earlier, like my childhood was very complicated and complex, and I grew up very fast due to a number of circumstances, which I'm happy to get into if it's useful. But, um, you know, I learned how to cope and put this kind of armor on myself that helped me move through the world unknowingly. Of course, that's how we do it, right? We experience things at any given juncture of life that we may or may not know how to handle, and we do our best. And I think a lot of us armor up and find a way to cope that may not be the healthiest thing. And that's certainly what happened to me. And I started using drugs and alcohol when I was 15, and within 2.5 years, I had racked up multiple arrests and consequences and was on a very, very, very scary and bad path. And my family is mostly in recovery, or is dead from the disease. And so I was confronted with some things and ended up making a decision to get sober. And when you ask about an investment, that's what I think of as an investment now, like making that decision. And I actually just celebrated 25 years of sobriety yesterday, which is like insane.
Wow, congrats.
Um, and awesome and also just another day, but that investment in myself, making a decision to leave that behind so I could clearly and consciously move through life and start to address some of those things and bit by bit take off pieces of armor in a healthy and more productive way for myself, that investment and that choice is by far the greatest decision I've ever made that has set the stage for everything amazing that has happened in my life. And not only the amazing things, but it's built the tool set with which I can navigate any challenge and any amount of pain and suffering in a more productive way.
Okay. Thank you for sharing. And we'll come back to that because there are so many good reflections and lessons there. Um, your favorite soundtrack or opening song?
Oh my god. I do not like these questions, it's so hard. Okay, soundtrack. Oh my god. Um, I love the first thing I'm thinking of is like the soundtrack to Braveheart, like
Yeah.
like an instrumental score like that. Um I can tell you, like, what I'm loving right now is, like, Cigarettes After Sex. I think they are just, like, such an amazing kind of, like, ethereal, moody, um, group, or OC and Elliot. But yeah, that's I guess, like, my first answer I'm gonna go with the Braveheart
Okay.
soundtrack. Yeah. Wow.
Um, what about best country you've visited?
Ugh. Okay, India has, like, changed my life twice. And so, I'm gonna just go with that. Um, India is like one of my friends explains it as an assault to your senses. It's just in like the best way, you know. It is so very different than the life that I have experienced here. Obviously culturally, just the volume of people, the way of life, the spirituality. Um, but it is just a really holy place, you know, and
Yeah.
a place that I learned a lot about myself on, several occasions, and it changed the course of my life forever too, so
Yeah, I remember when you went there and you taught me something that I did when I traveled to Africa, which was to bring a Polaroid and take pictures. Tell me, how did you come up with that, and what effect did it cause?
yeah. You know, there was, like, some I went with Whole Foods Market, it was a service it was a service trip, and of course, like, there was, multiple prongs to the trip, but we were, like, specifically instructed not to give money, that there would be
Uh,
instances in which you'd be asked for money and don't do
that's
that,
right.
and so I was just thinking, "Okay, like, what if not, if not contributing in that sort of way, it's like what could I offer and what could be, that I love human connection, and that's like one of my it's pretty much the core value with which I move through this world. Like human connection is the answer to everything, you know?
Yeah,
And so it's like, how can I connect and maybe contribute something that would bring joy? And so I don't know if I had heard of it from somewhere or how it came to be, but I just got a little Polaroid and I brought it
yeah,
with me and I took pictures of kiddos and gave them to them. And not just kids, like anyone, that
yeah.
I crossed paths with. So it was
That's
awesome.
so meaningful for them. I remember seeing the smiles on the kids, and it was just what a great idea. Okay, last rapid fire question, I promise. You are an amazing marketer, a brand strategist. So, brand that you most admire today, because I know you have several brands, but a brand that comes to mind.
Oh my gosh. I just watched actually, a case study on Apple's Think Different approach and just kind of the Steve Jobs's journey from like being, basically let go from Apple and then returning and bringing Think Different to life and how
Yeah,
that whole thing happened, you know? And so that's most present for me, and Apple is, like, one of those brands that stands the test of time, but a brand that, no pun intended, like, thought very differently about what is the emotion? What is the
uh-huh,
emotion that is going to be felt, or what is the personal power that someone can excavate from themselves by using this computer? Like, and going this route of kind of like the creative geniuses that have made things and then making this computer a conduit to that. Like it was really a brilliant campaign and it like stands
yeah,
the test of time. Um but yeah, uh so many brands doing great things. I hate to be cliche about it. I think Liquid Death is one of like the best and most relevant brands of the moment because of the way that they play with culture and show up in so many different ways to bring relevance
yeah,
to the product. And, it's, I think, it was probably like 7 or 8 years ago now sitting in a meeting with the meta team. And it's kind of like the average attention span is 3 seconds. I'm sure it's like one now, but it's
yeah.
like, how do you break through and capture attention in this wild world we're living in? And I think they're doing a masterful job at it.
So true. Okay, let's move into a little bit of travel and tell me a little bit more about Minnesota. So, tell me, you go to the state fair. What's the go-to thing to do there?
Okay, the Minnesota State Fair, like, is legitimately one of the greatest
Oh
places
my
on
God,
earth,
you change
and
your like you put your serious like, dude,
I'm yes, no,
this
like,
is
people Andres, I will tell you, people are like, there are people traveling in next year who are like, "Will you go to the fair with me?" Because as
Yes.
you know, like every year I will post my great adventures of the Great Minnesota Get Together. But what it is, of course, like, part nostalgia for me, but it is also,
Uh,
like, legitimately the best state fair in the country. Like, you can find many articles about it in the New York Times and several other national outlets. Drew Barrymore came to the fair this year, like, undercover. I mean, it's very cool.
yeah.
Um, and it's huge, and it's full of all of the things, it's all of the farm things and many buildings. There's fine arts, kids art, robotics, like everything horticulture, everything you can think of. And then also it's very food forward. Obviously, huge passion of mine. Um, so the best thing about it for me is just being there with the people I love, because it's just a place I experience a lot of joy. But there's also, like, key foods that are just delicious to me, you know?
Yeah.
So, like, the kettle corn, the twist cone in the dairy building, obviously Sweet Martha's cookies, huge, delicious. She was my 5th grade art teacher, love her. Um, Holy Land, getting a gyro. I s I'm trying to think. I'm like, there's a couple of other staples I have, but, um,
Cookies.
yeah.
I've seen you eating cookies there.
Oh,
Some
yes, the
amazing
cookies
cookies.
are like yes, this woman makes, like, millions of dollars. I'm not kidding you. I think she's up to, like, 3 or 4 million in 12 days off of
Oh
just
my.
all they sell is chocolate chip cookies. That's
Wow.
it.
Uh, so yes, maybe that's on my bucket list. Go to the state fair
You're coming
with
to the
you
fair.
though.
You're
With
yeah,
you. With you.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. Are we warm up? Yeah, I think I'm warm up already to, some next level questions.
Okay.
What daily habits keep you grounded, Lisa?
Oh, wow. So I'm a lifelong journaler. I've been journaling for a very long time.
Mm,
And that is probably my most consistent spiritual practice of my life. Um, I do like to literally walk outside with my bare feet and put my feet on the earth. I don't do that every
yeah.
day. I wish I did. But that is an actual, like, literal grounding practice, like connecting to the earth in that way. If you have not done it, I highly recommend it. So that journaling, meditation, which I do on and off, I would love to tell you that I meditate without fail every day, and I don't. Um, I also have a book that I love. It's like one of my most commonly gifted items, but it's called The Book of Awakening by Mark Nepo. And it's just like a 365 daily meditation book. So sometimes I'll read that before I journal. But that's super important to me. And then I'm a big nature gal. So every day, with the exception of very few, like if I'm sick or if the weather is like really that terrible, I always take like a 4 mile walk. And I exercise. Those are the things I do to keep myself well. And of course, like, I love good food. I love good,
Yeah.
healthy food, and eat that mostly along with my popcorn and chocolate habit. That's my, like, 10% of, like, naughty food behavior.
Yeah. Okay, we go into a session called the monster moment, right? Every life has a monster moment, a
Mhm,
difficult or dramatic experience that changed everything. What was
mhm.
yours?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I've already kinda told you about, getting sober, so I would say we can, like, revisit that, or, 18 years after that, um I was working at Whole Foods Market. I had climbed the ladder very quickly. I came about in my career when social media was just hitting the business world, and you know, I was a public relations major. I did my capstone in college on how social networks were affecting the PR discipline. And from my first job, I was really not only doing traditional PR, but figuring out how we can go direct to community instead of having to go between the mediator of a journalist to get a story told. And so, I set precedent in retail and entertainment at Mall of America and went on to General Mills and some agency things. I ended up at Whole Foods, leading social media and influencer marketing and brand content for a while. And I got to this place in 2017, actually. I got an award. I got a Global All-Star award at Whole Foods. And I just remember thinking, is this like, it was both I loved my career, but I got to this place where I, like, had achieved a certain amount. I made money. Made great money. I had the job. I was married. I had this dog. We had a house. I had all the things you're supposed to have to be
Mm,
happy. And I just remember thinking, "Is this it?" Is this it? And simultaneous to that, I had a lot welling up inside. I didn't make really time for a balanced life. I wanted to travel. I was setting that aside. I was questioning my marriage. I was setting that aside. Um, I was feeling called to a deeper meaning or higher purpose. I was setting that aside. And I kept just working harder and soul cycling harder and Netflixing harder and just kind of distracting myself with all of these other things instead of really stepping into some of those truths. And then I went to India with Whole Foods. Um, and a bunch of other things happened in there, like my dog died, I got sick. Like I wasn't listening to these things, and some other things happened in my personal life that were really challenging, but I just kept going, and then more kind of negative things were happening. Then I go to India, I'm away from all of the identity labels that I carry here, my job, my
mm.
marriage, my flat iron, my blow dryer, just like my Western clothes, even. I just stepped away from all of that and I just had a minute to be. And even though there's 1.3, I'm sure more now, but billion people in India, like I just felt a spaciousness to like let all of those things rise up. And so I got home and there were some pretty big life decisions that got made. My husband and I got divorced. I ended up planning an
Oh,
exit from Whole Foods. I went and traveled. I hiked the Kamano Kodo in Japan and did a Vipassana meditation and just like posted up in Bali for a little bit, and just learned how to exist again as me without any of these things. And in so doing, began this journey of returning to myself and kind of cultivating a new life that was in better balance for me.
so what would you have done differently if you had the opportunity to, you know, do something maybe when you first took that job at Whole Foods?
Okay, wait, ask that again. What would I have done differently
Right.
to have a different outcome?
To have a different outcome.
Nothing. Because
Because
it's
the outcome taught you a lesson that today is one that you relish. And because of that, then say more.
I mean, everything in my life is or has been as it should be.
Yeah.
The best things and I think the really hard things. And I am who I am because of the path I had to travel to get to those places. And sometimes it's not pleasant, or I've had to say goodbye to things that were really precious to me or things that actually like I really enjoyed. Nothing about my career was disingenuous. I never did anything I didn't want to do. I mean, like we all take jobs that we're like, oh, this isn't a great fit and I'm going to move on from that. Like, I'm not talking about that. I'm just saying, like, I loved everything about my path and was deeply passionate and it was really aligned for a period of time. And then when it wasn't, I didn't I knew what I needed to be doing. I'm doing some journal transcription right now, like going back through all my journals, and it's like I had the answers all along. Like
Yeah.
I should have been going to a therapist. I knew that I was like not moving through things with pulling the tools that I even have in my toolkit, but there's a reason why. And so I don't really spend a lot of time thinking about what could have been had I have done
Yeah.
something differently, but what's cool about it is, like, in some respects, I've had to learn things the hard way, and I think as I navigate and move forward, things will be easier because I don't wanna necessarily go through that again, or
Yeah.
I have new tools that will make that less hard, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I did ask the question intentionally because I mean, in life, to achieve success, but more than that, to achieve fulfillment and to be authentic and in peace with you, you gotta hit the ground. And there's just not another way. So protecting the journey ahead doesn't really do a lot of good if you are avoiding, learning the lessons that come with failure and with hitting these master moments. And a lot of us, a lot of people are going through different things, which when you think about the outcome after everything it's done, and it's probably why things are happening, right? And not
Mhm,
just with us, but in the world. So it's meant to be here to make us stronger and to make us feel in a different way when
mhm.
we are on the other side.
Yeah.
What one hidden skill or hobby that you have people may not know about?
Ooh. Oh my gosh. Um, that people may not know about. I mean, I don't talk about it a lot, but I like teach. Well, yeah, I mean, I teach a forest bathing exercise. Like I spend a lot of time studying with a wilderness teacher. And so helping people reconnect to themselves through connecting to the wild. It's something that I like, might have talked about here and there, but I don't talk about it a lot. So I feel like people don't necessarily know some of the new skills that I've cultivated over the last
Yeah,
7 years.
that's awesome. Um, what is your biggest pet peeve, especially maybe around work?
Ooh. I think, the separation of like a professional self and a self, I think there's both like benefits to having masks that we wear, but also just like the lack of vulnerability and humanness in work. I think that's getting better, but I also think that we have a long way to go. And that if we just showed up with our true selves a little bit more, things might go more smoothly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you weren't doing this, that is coaching, helping leaders communicate with clarity, what
Mm.
do you think you'd be doing instead?
Oh, I mean, I love traveling. I love learning about other people and places and other ways of existing. And so that is just a passion of mine, but it's like if I was doing something other than this, more like full time, it would probably be, some sort of deeper dive into wilderness immersion, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, you and I have talked about AI a lot, and you worked in the intersection between creativity, technology. Gosh, you started social media. For me, you are the person that comes to mind when I think about social media and what that is. But what
Mhm.
excites you, or gets you kind of worried about AI?
Um, I I've always loved emerging media and technology because of my study and work in the field for a really long time. So it excites me in the sense that it's new, that we have to figure out what and how to do with it, that we have to build ethics and responsible ways of working with it. I love the ability to use AI as a thought partner. Um, and just kind of figure out how it works. I don't spend a lot of time worrying about it. Maybe that's wrong. I'm just like not I'm not into giving my power away to things. I'm into being discerning and thoughtful. And it's not that I don't ever get scared, but I just don't it's not productive for me to just like sit around and worry about what AI is
Yeah,
going to do. So I kind of learn about it. I triage that by like learning about it and reading about it and using it. Like use the thing, figure out the thing. Um, it definitely does though, that being said, have a different air to it than social media, right? Meaning like the potential impacts of this technology and what it could do, especially if it's put into robotics. I mean, it's taking everything that we are inputting into it and getting smarter and smarter and smarter. Um, and so that to me, like when I start to go down that road, has implications. Maybe not in our lifetime, but certainly for the future. And um, yeah, my hope is that we do right by it and that it does right by us. But there's a lot of work involved in that. So
yeah.
That's kinda just how I'm feeling about it right now.
Yeah. So tell me, I'm fascinated by your coaching practice.
Oh.
Tell me more about it and what's next for you with this.
Mm. Yeah, so I'm a transitions and career and executive coach, and that was really born out of when I left Whole Foods and I took a sabbatical and then I started a consultancy kind of by accident, honestly. People started reaching out, asking me what I was up to. So I started consulting, doing what I had always done, communications, integrated marketing strategy, obviously social influencer, all of that. And within that work, I was working with CEOs, CMOs, and leaders in organizations. And what ended up happening is, as I would come in and do my work, I would sit down and talk to the whole team. And within that, I would unearth a lot of very juicy information that was really much more about management and leadership. And I would be asked by these leaders, like, how are you? Like, you've been here for like less than a week.
Yeah.
How do you know all this? And it's like, well, I had like a 10-minute conversation with like 12 people, and it's like pretty clear that these things are true. And so, my work quickly kind of became more advisory, more mentorship in some cases, and coaching leaders on how to better structure the operation or their teams. And so that's really like, and then on my personal journey side of things, people were like, basically had your dream job, quit that, went and traveled the world. And like, how do I do that? Like, people in their own journeys and stories feeling that pull towards something else and not knowing how to activate it. So, like, that's kind of where my coaching practice was born. I went to
Yeah.
Berkeley. I went to their Executive Leadership Coaching Institute, which is fantastic. Cannot recommend it enough, and got certified through them. And so that's really like what my practice is about is either really helping people with their personal and individual leadership. And really what that's about for me today is like helping people return to the truth in themselves. People come to me with so many different problems, and what I find is the problem is never the problem, and they always have the answer. So I just
Okay.
help. I'm basically like a guide that helps you return to the truth inside of yourself.
Yeah.
And then I help you honor it. That's it.
Yeah. And that that's very hard to do, but I think your life journey, the experiences, the good and the hard moments helped you build this core DNA that helps you relate to people, helps you ask the right questions, pause, listen, your connection with nature. And then obviously you are certified and you took it to the next level. So how interesting.
Mhm.
Okay, a couple more like profound questions. What does happiness mean to you?
Ooh. Um, when I think about happiness, I just think about a steady state of contentment. I think about it not as like a high or, um, a pinnacle moment. I just think about a steady state of being peaceful and content. That's happiness to me, you know? Yeah, I mean, period. That's
Yeah.
it.
What gives you genuine joy?
Oh, connection, anytime you and I talk or I talk to people that I love and even people I do, it's like don't even know, but just that human connection brings me joy. Just the small micro moments of life where you connect with someone. It can just be like the person at Target. It's like, "Hey, how you doing today?" It's like and if you don't ask the person that you're interacting with how they're doing, like, ask everybody how they are. Like, that moment of human connection with people with people you don't know, that's what lights me up. It's always what's lit me up, and it will always be. And then I think my time in nature,
Yeah.
my time in nature and, like, all the snacking I do brings me joy.
And the Minnesota State Fair.
And the
When
Minnesota State
yeah,
Fair,
yeah.
obviously. Yeah. Yeah.
When do you feel most fulfilled?
Hmm. Oh, when I'm in that place of self-honoring, I think, there's as much work as I've done and you know, as much as I've accomplished, which if I like zoom way out on paper, I've done all the things, you know, I've been successful, but I still struggle, you know, I still struggle with, you know, publishing certain things or how do I want to show up here, and you know, I overthink, and sometimes I there's self-abandonment in that cuz it just gets too overwhelming. Um and so the self-honoring and just being true to myself is so fulfilling.
Yeah,
Because it means that, you know, it's funny that I help people return to the truth in themselves and help them honor it. And so, of course, it would make sense that I struggle with that myself, but when I can do that, it means that my gift is in its full potential and light. And that's why we're all here, is to live in like our full potential and light, you know. And it's funny because like we're the ones who hold ourselves back from that the most.
yeah.
So yeah.
What are you afraid of?
Oh, I would say I would say not. It's funny. The question, what I'm most afraid of, is directly related to my answer to the other question. And I think I am most afraid of living this life and not doing the things that I am called to do because I'm scared of what you'll think, because I'm scared of how they'll be received,
Yeah.
because of all of that stuff, is to like not live in my full potential.
So on that note, like, what do you want to leave behind?
Mm. These are good questions. These are really good questions. Yeah, I just want to leave behind love, Andres. You know, I want to leave behind, like, I don't need to do anything profound. I don't need to be famous. I don't need you to know my name, but I do want to leave love. And that to me means that, like, I did everything that I could to crack my heart open as wide and big as it can be, and to have loved and been loved, to have seen people, to have known them, and to have that exchange. Like, that's what I wanna leave behind, period. That's it.
Okay. Imagine we talked about work, but at the end of the day, work is not what brings us fulfillment. Work is not what we will remember, right? When we're
Mhm.
80 and thinking about, the meeting that we didn't take, or, the conference that we didn't attend to, but it's more around the relationships, the things that we didn't do when, our dogs were alive.
Mm,
So it's funny. Anything career related, in the end of it, I mean, that's why I want to highlight this in front of people, right?
mm,
Because a lot of people are struggling with this idea of finding work, but in the end, when we work on finding this and what gives us meaning and purpose and fulfillment, the other thing will come as a byproduct of that. I started backwards, and now I'm very reflective about and intentional about getting to where I need to get, right?
mhm,
Um, what's your personal purpose?
mm. You know, I've been thinking a lot about this because I'm in the middle of another sabbatical right now. I was recently introduced to this concept of original medicine. Like, what's your original medicine? And you know, it was kind of popularized. It's an indigenous practice, popularized or spoken about by Angeles Arian, who's awesome. If
Okay.
you don't know who she is, look her up. But you know, this idea is that we come to this earth with gifts, you know, like that are nowhere else duplicated. Like, we all have this individual gift. And then if we don't express that gift, it's lost to the world for all time. And so when you talk about like personal purpose, that's how I've been thinking about, like, what is my original medicine? Instead of thinking about like what's my purpose, it's like, what is my original medicine? Like, what is my gift? What continues to show up over and over again when I don't like overthink it and all of that stuff. And you know, I have this ability to like, I'm a seer and a connector. Like, I have this
Uh-huh.
ability to see things that other people sometimes can't see, providing I'm taking good care of myself. But, the place that I've arrived when it comes to, like, what's my purpose or my original medicine is, I guide people back to the place inside that already knows, and then I help them honor it. And that's, obviously goes back to the coaching discussion, but that is my purpose here, is to do that, for and with other people. But, the piece that I've also been thinking about is, by me being, that when I work with somebody, it's like I will be vulnerable about my story. And there's
Uh-huh.
this beautiful infinity loop that happens when I do that for other people, but share myself as well. And I get to learn more deeply about who I am in that process of helping others do that for themselves. Um, so it's not the most tight and tidy answer, but yeah, it's,
Yeah.
to guide people back to the place inside of them that already knows. We all already know. We do.
Yeah. Well, when I finish with a practice that you and I learn on, I mean, at Whole Foods, we always try to give gratitude, practice gratitude, appreciations. Um, I am, and maybe this is why this podcast or this conversation is so meaningful for me because I have that time to be grateful with someone that I admire and someone that's taught me so much, a mentor. And you and I don't talk every day. We don't see each other every day. In fact, you moved. But if you have a true mentor, you can nurture that relationship and we could go by weeks without talking, but
Mhm.
once you connect again, you can just pick it up from the beginning. You've opened your heart for me to also tell you, my fears and the things that I'm working on, and the way you think about your parents, your dog, marriage. Lisa, you've done so much for me, and I am so grateful to have you in my life and so grateful that you can do this for other people. And I'm so glad we did it. I didn't think I was gonna get so emotional, but I am very, very happy that we did this and that we will continue to share our journeys together.
Oh, me too, buddy. Me too. And it's like so reciprocal. Like from the moment I met you when I was coming down to interview at Whole Foods, and just like you are also one of those people who like sees and connects. And I think like we recognize that in each other. And you have just like such a beautiful light and energy about you. And it's, whether it was kind of our ongoing check ins at Whole Foods or the way that we've maintained this relationship after I left is just, it's like that is the beauty of careers, It's like we
Yeah.
might not think about our careers when we die, but we do like make lifelong relationships throughout our careers, and they're just some of the best gifts that we're ever given. And like you are one of those gifts to me too. And so I just like, oh, so
Yeah.
grateful
I
as
love what
well.
you said. Thank you so much, Lisa. Thank you so much. And to finalize, is there anything else that you'd like to share with the audience here that it's me and my dogs?
Oh my gosh. Just love yourself and take care of yourselves and protect your peace so that you can so that your light can shine, and that you can just do that in whatever capacity you have capacity for, but it's like this, there is a lot of darkness now, and
Yeah.
but we all have the power. We all have the personal power to protect our peace and to keep ourselves well so we can shine our light in whatever ways, and that makes such a huge difference. So we have to take care of ourselves so we can shine out in the world, and just bring a little bit more light.
Thank you so much, Lisa.
Yeah.
And until the next time, I am Andres, and this is Path Forward.
Yay.